In the small town of Greenwood, North Carolina, December's winter had wrapped everything in a white blanket. But Ava's life wasn't calm and quiet like the snow. It was more like a storm boiling beneath a frozen lake. At 32, Ava woke up every morning at 4:30 a.m. She would pin back her messy hair with a clip, throw on her coat, and walk barefoot into the kitchen to put the kettle on. It was still dark outside, and a thin sheet of frost had settled on the windows of their small, rented two-bedroom apartment. At that same moment, a little alarm clock buzzed from the corner of the room. Her 9-year-old son Noah was awake. "Good morning, Mama," he mumbled sleepily. "Morning, baby." Ava kissed his forehead and brought him into the kitchen. As she made oatmeal for both of them, her eyes landed on the calendar pinned to the wall. Christmas was circled. Just 2 weeks away, and she didn't have money for even a single gift. But Ava wasn't someone who gave up easily. She hurried through her morning chores, sent Noah off to the bus stop, and headed toward the bakery, where she worked every morning from 5:30 to 10:30. While wiping the counters and watching snowflakes fall through the bakery window, Ava often thought about her old dreams. How she once wanted to be a chef, to open her own cozy little place where people could feel her passion with every bite of cake. But that dream had shifted. Now, every dream lived in Noah's eyes. After her bakery shift, she worked part-time at a beauty supply store, hiding her exhaustion behind customer service smiles and polite answers. By evening, when she came home, she'd sit down with her old laptop and focus on her Etsy store, where she sold handmade skincare products, organic body butters, lip balms, and face masks. It wasn't her big dream, but maybe it could be her way to something better, something she could be proud of. On the other side of town, her sister Lena, 28, lived in a completely different world. She was an Instagram influencer, posting stories about Ferraris, designer dresses, and bottomless brunches every weekend. Ava didn't mind Lena's world, except when Lena made her own success feel like a weapon. Like Ava's hard work was just some kind of joke. And now, Lena was throwing her 29th birthday party on a glamorous rooftop lounge. She'd invited Ava with a casual text message. "Come if you want. Bring Noah. There'll be cake." Ava didn't know whether to go. She knew that showing up to Lena's party meant stepping into a room full of people who saw her as nothing but a failure. But when it came to Noah, her thoughts changed. She didn't want her son to grow up disconnected from family, even if that family barely acknowledged her. The night before the party, Noah asked, "Mom, are we going to Aunt Lena's birthday tomorrow?" Ava looked at his sweet, innocent face. Eager, hopeful. "Yes, baby. We'll go," she said quietly, locking in the decision with a heavy heart. That night, Ava pulled out the small envelope where she kept her bakery savings. It wasn't enough to buy a decent gift, but there was something else she could do. She gathered all the earnings from her Etsy store, 6 months of late nights and quiet hustle, totaling $25,000. She wrote a check, and with it, she included a short, handwritten note. "This is not a gift. This is belief for the business you always dreamed of." The next morning, she put on her nicest coat and got Noah ready. As the taxi pulled up to the party location, the sky had turned soft pink, and the rooftop lights twinkled in the crisp December air. Inside, it was a completely different world. Glittering dresses, champagne towers, and sleek white leather couches. As Ava stepped in, Lena saw her and smirked. "Wow, you actually showed up," she said, loud enough for others to hear. A few women standing behind her chuckled. Ava said nothing. She held Noah's hand tightly and took a quiet seat in the corner. The gift opening ceremony began. Shiny boxes were opened, designer handbags were admired. Then Lena made an announcement, her voice loud and playful. And now, let's see what my big sister brought. All eyes turned to Ava. She's the family failure. She didn't even bring a gift. Lena laughed. Their mother stayed quiet. Their father took another sip of champagne. And then Noah, with the pure innocence only a child has, asked, "Why is Aunt Lena being mean?" Without saying a word, Ava reached into her purse, pulled out the envelope, and walked toward Lena. "Here, happy birthday," she said, her voice calm and clear. Lena opened it. The color drained from her face. Her fingers trembled as she stared at the check, and then slowly unfolded the letter. Line by line, she read. The room fell into silence, total stunning silence. And for the first time ever, Lena's face wasn't proud. It was ashamed. And that was the moment the story turned. Lena's fingers stayed frozen on the check and the letter tucked inside the envelope. She reread it slowly, as if she had missed something the first time. Her face, just moments ago, glowing with laughter and charm, was now pale, stunned. The smirk had vanished. Her eyes hung somewhere in the air, unfocused, and her lips trembled slightly, like she wanted to speak, but the words were stuck in her throat. Is this Is this real?" Her voice cracked as she slowly sank into her chair. Soft murmurs started rippling across the room. Even those who were half scrolling through their phones had now given their full attention to what was unfolding. Ava stood still in the corner, her hand resting gently on Noah's shoulder. There was no smile on her face, no anger, just a calm stillness, like she had finally laid a heavy burden down. Her mother, who had been quiet until now, walked over and asked softly, "Ava, what is this?" Ava answered in a single line. "It's success. The kind you didn't see coming." The silence that followed felt louder than any shout. Everyone now wanted to know what just happened. No one asked out loud, but every eye begged for answers. Lena was still silent, her head bowed. In the hush that followed, like the ticking of a clock, she gathered herself and whispered, "She believes in me." 3 words she never imagined hearing from the sister she had always seen as a failure. This wasn't just about money. It was a message, a declaration. Ava had swallowed every insult, stood invisible in every gathering, vanished in every family photo, but today, she stood tall, and she gave Lena something Lena had never given her: belief. The party guests, once giggling over champagne, now sat like an audience at a live drama, transfixed, sobered. Noah tugged Ava's coat gently and asked, "Mom, did you plan all of this for her?" Ava knelt slightly and whispered back, "No, baby, I did this for me. So one day, when you're grown, you'll know. There are different ways to answer the world. Not every fight needs shouting. Sometimes, grace is the loudest reply." Lena's eyes welled up. She turned toward their mother, but their mother's eyes held no clear emotion. Ava's father, for the first time that night, looked her directly in the eyes. He wanted to speak, but nothing came out. There were no words worthy enough. And then, for the very first time, Lena said something she had never said in any room, ever. "I was wrong about her." Ava didn't respond. She simply stood, still holding Noah's hand. No one else said a word either. The envelope had already said everything that needed to be said. The night began to wind down. One by one, guests started to leave. Ava slipped on her coat, helped Noah into his hat, and as they stepped outside, she turned once, just once, to glance back. Lena was still standing there, hands still clutching the check. Inside the elevator, as they descended, Noah looked up and asked, "Mom, are you still mad at her?" Ava took a breath and said, "I was. But tonight, I feel free. It was one of those nights, no shouting, no crying, no revenge. Yet the response was heavier than all of that." The next morning, Ava woke up early. Yellow sunlight peeked through the window, but there was a different kind of calm inside her. Noah was still deep in sleep, his breathing soft and steady, one small arm curled tightly around his teddy bear's neck. With a quiet smile, Ava adjusted the blanket over him and walked into the kitchen. The aroma of brewing coffee filled the air, and for the first time in a long while, it awakened a sense of quiet confidence inside her. As she reached the fridge, a small magnet slid loose and a folded note fell to the floor. You did it! Someone had scribbled in black ink. It wasn't just any note, it was from Uncle Jay. The same uncle who had told her, way back in childhood, that some answers don't come through words, but through actions. He knew what had happened last night, and maybe this was his way of saying, I saw it, and I'm proud. Her phone screen lit up. Lena, a new message, just 3 words. Can we talk? Ava stared at the screen for a few moments. A few years ago, she might have replied immediately, typing out a long paragraph, over explaining, maybe even calling. But not today. Today, she simply typed, sure, but not today. She opened the fridge, pulled out pancake batter, and began cooking breakfast for her and Noah. A few minutes later, Noah walked in rubbing his eyes. Mom, can we have chocolate chips in the pancakes today? He asked sleepily. Ava smiled. Of course, sweetheart. Today's a special day. Why? Noah asked. Ava paused, then said, because today I finally feel like me. Noah grinned and reached into the fridge for the milk. As he sat at the table, he pulled out a paper he had made at school, a handmade card drawn in crayon. On it, there was a picture of a woman holding a giant check in one hand and wearing a superhero cape. Across the top, in bold colors, it said, My mom is a boss. Ava froze. Her hands trembled slightly, her eyes welled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. She picked up the card, kissed it gently, and said, This is the best thing anyone's ever given me. Later that afternoon, Ava received a call. Her dad's name flashed across the screen. It was the first call from him in a long time. She hesitated, then picked it up. His voice was low, unsure. Ava, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. Ava let the silence sit for a moment, then quietly responded, Thanks, Dad. That means a lot. Right after she hung up, she checked Facebook and saw something she didn't expect. Her mother had posted a link to Ava's Etsy store. The caption read, So proud of my daughter, the entrepreneur. This from the same woman who used to hide Ava from family friends, who avoided mentioning her at parties. Now she was proudly showing off her daughter's success. That evening, another message came in from Lena. I didn't expect that. I didn't know you had it in you. Ava replied with a single line. That's the thing about underestimating people. It makes our success feel louder. Lena was no longer the queen of the party. And Ava? She was no longer the family failure. But more importantly, Ava had become someone whole and powerful in her own eyes. Weeks passed. Spring settled gently into the air with a soft chill. But Ava carried warmth inside her, a confidence, a new identity that no longer needed to hide. Every morning, after dropping Noah off at school, she would return home and get to work on her Etsy store. She packaged skincare products with care, created new batches of organic body butter, and watched as orders came pouring in, each one a small validation, each one lighting her eyes with pride. This was the same girl once labeled the family failure, the one who was overlooked at every gathering, whispered about behind closed doors. Now, she was building an empire with her own 2 hands, and they were all watching her rise. That afternoon, while Ava was trimming package labels at the kitchen table, the doorbell rang. Outside sat a courier box, the sender, Lena Carter. Ava hesitated for a moment, then picked it up and placed it on the counter. Slowly, she peeled back the tape. Inside was a small black velvet box, holding a simple yet stunning real gold bracelet. Tucked inside was a handwritten tag, To the strongest sister I know. Ava sat still for a while, turning the bracelet in her hand, reading and rereading the tag. The corners of her eyes welled up just a bit, but she held herself steady. She didn't reply with a long, emotional message. She simply texted, "Got the package. Thank you." Lena didn't respond right away. And Ava didn't need her to, because Ava no longer needed validation. Not from her family, not from her sister, not from anyone. The next day, when Noah came home from school, his face was glowing. "Mom, I told my class today about our business. Everyone was amazed. Miss Carter said she wants to order your face cream." Ava hugged him tight and said, "This is your business too, partner." That moment was their biggest victory. No stage, no party, no applause. Just a kitchen, a mother who had reclaimed her dignity, and a son who saw his mom as a superhero. That same night, Ava was digging through the old drawer of her closet when she found a journal, one she used to write in when everything felt heavy and uncertain. She flipped to the last entry, dated 13 months ago. "I don't know how long I can keep doing this. I'm tired. I'm invisible. Maybe this is just life now." She grabbed a pen and wrote a new entry beneath it. "I did it. Not for them. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. I'm not invisible. I was just surrounded by people too blind to see." When she closed the journal, there were no tears in her eyes, just peace. The kind only someone who kept believing in herself can understand, even when the world refused to look. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't an apology. Sometimes it's living your dreams in silence, with dignity. Ava's life was different now. Every morning, when she had breakfast with Noah, there was a stillness inside her. The restlessness that once clung to her was gone. She knew this wasn't some perfect movie ending. She hadn't embraced Lena in some teary reunion. But there was no emptiness inside her. She had found her voice, and she didn't have to scream for the world to hear it. That morning, Ava received another text from Lena. "Can we meet?" Ava stared at the screen for a moment, then looked at Noah quietly eating his toast. She replied, "Not today. Soon." As she set the phone down, another call came in. Uncle Jay. "I saw the video clip from the party," he said, his voice warm, full of pride. "You handled that with more class than I've seen in my entire life. I'm proud of you." Ava closed her eyes and smiled gently. This was the same Uncle Jay who had once told her, 5 years ago, "Stop dreaming, Ava. You need a real job." Now he was the one saying, "You proved everyone wrong." Moments later, Noah came running in with a handmade card. "Look what I made for you, Mom." It was a drawing of a woman with a cape on her shoulders, holding a check, with people behind her looking down in shame. On top, it said, "My mom is a boss." Ava's eyes welled up again. She hugged Noah tightly, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "You have no idea how much I needed this today." The days continued. Lena texted again. "I really want to explain. There's more I need to say." Ava wrote back, "I hear you, but right now, I'm building something." On social media, Ava's Etsy shop had now become a featured creator page. She had thousands of followers, not just for her products, but because her story inspired them. Her mother, who once only praised Lena as the successful daughter, now proudly shared Ava's posts on Facebook with captions like, "My daughter, the entrepreneur." Ava's father, the man who had always stayed silent, came over one day. He sat across from her at the table and said, "I owe you an apology. I didn't see you. But now I do." Ava nodded slowly. "It's okay, Dad. You weren't the only one." One evening, as Ava was packing orders for her new skincare line in the kitchen, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. No makeup, loose hair. Tired, but real. And in that reflection, She saw a woman who had won, not with a crown or a trophy, but with quiet resilience. She knew that whatever Lena's intentions were, she had already risen above it, without ever needing to fight. She carried no bitterness, no sharp words, just faith in herself and a son who loved her more every single day. The next day, Ava launched a new product line on her website called Quiet Power. Each item had a simple tagline printed on the label: "You don't have to be loud to be strong." Noah saw it and said, "That's so cool, Mom." Ava replied, "It's not just cool, it's true." Time had passed, but the peace inside Ava still echoed, just like it had the night she returned from that rooftop party. Noah was growing older now, his eyes filled with more understanding than questions. Ava was proud of herself, but there was still a quiet space inside her that hadn't fully healed. Not because someone had left her, but because she had stayed distant for too long, too afraid to be seen. And then, one ordinary evening, while cutting chart paper for Noah's school project, Ava received a letter. No glitter, no grand package, just a plain white envelope. She opened it slowly. Inside, there was no check, no bracelet, just a handwritten letter and a copy of one of Noah's old drawings. The letter was from Lena. "Ava, I didn't see everything you went through, but now I do. I found this drawing in Noah's room, your face holding the check, with people behind you looking down in shame. That's when I realized I hadn't ignored a sister. I had ignored a warrior. I still trend on social media, but none of my videos have ever spoken louder than your silence. I won't ask for forgiveness, but I want you to know I've learned. I don't call you Ava anymore. I call you Anchor, because you were the one who held this family together quietly without ever needing credit." Ava's eyes filled with tears, not of pain or anger, but of relief and recognition. After all these years, someone had finally seen her, named her sacrifice, acknowledged her worth, with no pretense, no spectacle, just a true and honest heart. That night, Noah saw his mother, sitting at the table, quietly smiling, tears slipping down her cheeks, but not needing any words. Nothing was said. Everything was understood. There was no gift, no stage, no applause. And yet, Ava had finally received everything she had ever wanted: respect, understanding, and peace. That was her final answer. That was her victory.